So it's Sunday morning. I thought I'd do a live stream. Nothing else to do. My music, got all my gear here. Got all the gear. Not much of an idea. Music. I'm also streaming it onto a Clubhouse as well. So the idea really is that I do lots of these events and this is an investor Q&A, investor Q&A, small business Q&A, and I thought that what I'd try and do is basically now and then, once, twice a week, is go live. Maybe sort of something that's scheduled like this, or something a bit more sort of random, a bit more sporadic during the week if I've got an idea or I meet somebody. And what I might do as well is actually invite some subject matter experts, because I know some stuff about some stuff, but I don't know everything about everything for sure. So there's sometimes where if we're going to talk about a particular subject, then I probably want to bring someone else in that actually really knows what they're talking about. So my expert subject's probably finance and just across the board. And the idea is to have some Q&A. And what I've been doing is, probably see their top right logo, the M, that's for Moblocks. I've been doing some sort of videos really, which are kind of setting the scene, not particularly specific. They're setting the scene on the kind of subjects that we're going to be focused on, like technology, tools, and the big one really is productivity and small businesses, that we're just not embracing technology in the way we should be doing, which means we're not as efficient, we're not as productive, not as successful, basically, not generating the income, not reducing the costs, and that makes a big difference in any small business, including my own. So I'm also in the business of clearly starting a business as well. So we can talk about that. And that's certainly got its ups and downs. So I'm going through the process of hiring people, which we all know is hard work, raising finance as well. So I'm raising external finance because it's going to need quite a bit of cash over a period of time, Moblocks, and building a community. So part of the reason I'm doing this, obviously, is to connect with my audience, if there is an audience. It might just be me talking to myself, to be honest with you, but it's connecting with people to talk about what it is you want, what it is that is going to help you be more successful, what's going to help you build your business, build the revenues, to grow, be more successful. And it's not necessarily about, I talk about small businesses. I kind of like to use the term owner-led. And owner-led covers it, but it's not a term people are quite used to yet. So this is really for startups, anyone that's that is building or growing or even just running a business. Maybe you don't want to grow it, and it's something which the founders, the owners, whoever it is that started it or owns that business, are actually still at the coal face. They're still running it. So the idea is to have some comments, some Q&A, and also if you want to ask me about my business really, and how that's going, and how I'm sort of going through the machinations of trying to start a business, and I'm quite happy to do that as well. So I had some questions. What I'm going to run through quickly is I did 2 videos. I think it was last week or the week before, and one of them was on productivity, kind of setting the scene. Another one of them was on I'm trying to find this thing here, was on leveraging yourself up, which is huge in any small business really. So that's really about how do you, an example I gave is that if your business is very much focused on time times price, so you don't really have you're doing, it's you, typically it's a service you're delivering, and you have so many hours in the day, and all you can really do is multiply that by the price you can charge per unit or hour, per day, however you charge, and that's it. That's your income. And that can be, that can work very well for some people, depending if you're earning, depending what the price is and how many hours you're working. But for other people, it can be a limitation as well. So the idea behind that article was to sort of set the seed of how you can leverage. I think of it as sort of time times price times leverage. So whatever that number is, it's a multiply the other two, and it leverages up. So if you've got any sort of questions, which I'm going to go open my YouTube as well. I should have sorted this out before. I was too busy running around. Here we we go. I had a couple of questions from people actually. So I sent an email out, and emailed me back, and some of them were sort of clarification on that video, and others were sort of more sort of generic questions. So if you've got any questions, especially if you're on YouTube, which I'm looking at now, then fire them up, and I'm going to set up my stream chat as well. I think you can restream today, so there's kind of restream for this, and I think StreamYard's another one. I think there's lots of different platforms we've all been using. So I'm going to try and use a few of them and see which ones actually work the best. So I think I've been looking at Restream for this and StreamYard, and they're very similar. Actually, all this software, when you actually start playing with it, no matter what kind of software it is you're actually doing, you're trying to use, you'll find that they try and overlap. So they'll start doing one thing and they do it pretty well, and then they'll think, okay, what other feature can we add? And then before you know it, they're all kind of doing the same thing, and that can be quite confusing. So one of the questions was about going for my video on here it is. It was about leverage and live chat. So the point there, and the point of that one really was to get to recurring revenue. And that's what it's all about. So in the middle of the jam in that sandwich of that video, which you can go watch if you want to, was really about recurring revenues. How do you stop generating just one-off revenue? So you go and do something, and it's your hours time, your price, or whatever it is you do. You might be selling a widget, and you get paid, and that's the end of it, and you move on. And even if you've got a small business, one of the things that always surprises me is that in large businesses, what they really talk about is acquisition, it's retention, and it's about how do you actually create recurring revenues. So, for example, you might have someone in your business where you're delivering a service, you deliver the service, and you don't really talk to your customer again. And recurring revenues, what they mean is that if you build a relationship, you can have reoccurring revenue, or what I call reoccurring revenue, which is slightly different. Recurring revenue is like your mobile phone contract. It's a contract. You pay it every month. It's software as a service. You apply this kind of software, and you pay it, and you pay every month, and you're going to pay it. And as a business, it's great. What that means is you've got recurring revenue coming in. So if you have a shop, essentially, then you will on the 1st of January, if that's your start of your year, you'll have no revenue. So you've got to start all over again. You've got to do the same business you did as a year before and some, and that's how you grow basically. Whereas when you have recurring revenue, essentially on the 31st of December, you're almost starting with the same amount of revenue. You get some churn, it will go down, you will lose some customers as you had last year, and you build from there. And what that means is you've got more certainty, you can raise more money, you have it's easy to invest because you've got more sort of visibility on your cash flows. And reoccurring revenue, it's not quite the same. That's where you'll have a customer who will probably come back to you on a regular basis and spend money with you. It's not contractual, but you've got a relationship. So I know Gardener might be a good example actually, where there's a reason for them to come back and for them to provide the service. And in the video, I use example of a car dealership. I don't know if that's a particularly good one, but they have a system whereby they program cars now, where you have to go back and you have a service, and that's a sales opportunity, and that's reoccurring revenue. So I said, imagine a spectrum where you're going from left to right. So on one side is basically one-off, and one's recurring. Try and add any kind of recurring revenue. Talk to your customers, find out what it is they want, what they need, and take it from there. So let's go chat here. So I'm going to look on YouTube actually. So we've got any advice, recommendations for a young person with a full-time day job to have a small business on the side? This is K. James. So this is how I started really, and they call it a side hustle now, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's just the same descriptor of having something on the side, but I think the word hustle kind of demeans it slightly. You should always think of it as slightly more seriously than that. So my view is this, is that the macro view I have is that we're all going to be really working for ourselves within a generation. The idea behind, organizations hiring people is breaking down. They're a fixed cost, and we're all going to have our skills. You might find over time in life, unlike now, that you have to retrain a few times to make sure your skills are relevant. And what that means is that you're going to have to become your own brand, really. And I think you may as well start on that process straight away. So the way I started in business was this: I started when I was 13, and everyone's got this sort of like founder sort of story, kind of back in the day when I started my. But I actually, when I was 13 years old, I grew up in Lancashire in the UK, which is a sort of a quite cold. The snow used to cover your cars in the winters, quite literally. And I had a paper round, so that was hard work. And I realised that I was working Monday to Saturday, and on Friday the newsagent didn't deliver papers. You had to go and get them. Don't ask me why. So my dad, who said one morning, "Can you get me my papers?" And I said, "Okay." So I popped down on my BMX, got him his papers. I came back, and I was earning £5 a week for this paper round, and he gave me, like, I can't remember the numbers now, right, but 50p or something. Right? And that kind of said, "Well, hang on a minute. If I do this 10 times, I'm onto a winner here. I'm earning more money." So I kind of flyered and built a paper round, and I delivered it on Sundays, and I bought from the wholesaler, not the newsagent. So I cut out, disintermediated the local newsagent, and I started from there, and I made some money. I made 20 quid a day on a Sunday, whatever it was. When I went to college, I was selling like these kind of perfumes that smell like the real thing. And I was doing door-to-door sales of Betterware, which is like Tupperware sort of stuff, household utensils, believe it or not. And I was doing that. And university, I was organising sort of parties, as you do. And then when I was at law school, even, I was doing sort of company formation. So always had something on the side. And even when I was training as a lawyer, actually, I was doing film finance with a friend of mine who went on to run Lionsgate in Europe. So he became a big wig in the film industry. And we were basically raising finance from the public and starting films and organising and producing films. So I always had one of these side hustles. And what that did meant that I learned. I made lots of mistakes, still do, but you still make mistakes. And you learn what interests you. You learn what you're good at, what you're not good at, and how you augment a team, put a team around you to fill those skill gaps. And you keep doing that. Now, I don't think particularly, so this tough one I get asked quite a lot is, someone asked me yesterday, actually, I think where it was, might have been on a YouTube comment, actually. And they asked me, should I stay or become a banker or go into business? And that's a really difficult question. So it depends on your personal circumstances, it depends on, your wealth to some extent, and also what really makes you tick. Now, I came from a background where I didn't have any real social capital, no contact, didn't understand the city. I struggled to get from my exam to get into university, but I got there in the end. So really, it was all new to me. I had to build that bridge as I cross those chasms. Some people aren't. They have the social capital, they have the background, the contacts, the wealth, the security, the confidence, even to go and start a business. So you don't always have to. In my personal opinion, for me, it was good to go and learn the ropes, learn how to work, how to operate in a professional environment, which is law and banking. And I learned some great skills. For example, a law, which is very useful. In the day, a business is a collection of contracts. So that's been quite helpful. But it doesn't mean you have to go and do that. But don't think that this sort of stereotype, this caricature of the 16-year-old that left school and built a unicorn, that is not the norm. I think the recent research shows the average, it might be even tech or entrepreneur, is 45. So you can see there that, people have got some experience. And I think that it's good to gain some experience, maybe to really understand the sector and industry, and then take that and then build on it. Before the sort of tech boom, really, before the first one, 2000, most institutional venture capital in the UK went into MBOs, management buyouts. And typically what that was that, you'd be working for a company, thinking, the owners have lost interest, or I can do a better job, and you'd buy it off them. And the venture capital funds would back you, support you to build a business. And that was an MBO. There was also management buy-ins as well. That's where institutional money used to go. And the point I'm making there is that those people had an expertise, had an understanding in the sectors, could see an opportunity. So a lot of people, even if you look at I was reading the thing about the Robin Hood S1 the other day, where, these guys, they were quants, they didn't sort of turn up they went to Stanford as well. So they had an education and they had some experience, and they could see an opportunity in the market, one in which they were able to, build a business around very successfully. So don't just sort of stay in school. I think overall is my sort of macro point. But have businesses on the side, and you can have digital businesses now. You know, infrastructure. You can, don't go on YouTube and buy some course about how to sell on Amazon FBA. It's a waste of money. But you get the idea. You can almost sell anything now from anywhere. Be it a service, you can build very simple products, MVP software prototypes. You know all the jargon. Give it a go, dip your toe in the water, and keep trying. And eventually, you'll become a better entrepreneur. And that's what serial entrepreneurs are. The people typically they've already made all the mistakes. Right, small building company. I won't go these in order. I can't do them all. This is Liam T. Got a small building company, lots of different work, contemplating specializing. Is it wise to take any work I can get? Another added to that here. I feel as I'm a busy fool. You're not West Indian, are you? That's what mum says. You're a busy fool. A margin's being spread too thinly. So specialism is, especially in a small business, is you can't be, if you're jack of all trades, you're going to be master of none. So again, going back to the video I made about recurring revenue, about leveraging yourself, and the point I made in there as well, one of the first point I made actually is try and create time by focusing. So focus on what you're very good at. In your case, it might be what your business is very good at, or where you see you're getting the most traction with customers, or where you see you're getting that plus the most margin. Now you'll hear in tech companies this concept of product market fit. In my new business, I'm trying to get content market fit. Product market fit, where you think about it, you've got a product, you've got a market, and you're trying to align the two so they connect. And if they're slightly off, you can have a problem. So eventually you refine your product, or you refine your market. Eventually they fit. Now that's all sort of a management chat, or tech startup chat, but it works in any business. So if you've got a small business, what I would do is try and work out where can you absolutely maximize the potential you have with the resources you've got. And then the other good news about that is that once you find that and you realize where it is you can maximize your potential, you can then scale it. So as long as it's a scalable business, if you're sort of all over the place, you don't really know, and you've got lots of different products, lots of different services, lots of different customers. The other point is, do you really understand your customer? If you've got lots of different customer types or customer personas, which one is it that you really, really do understand? Maybe you understand them all because you know your sector, but typically you're going to find there'll be a particular kind of customer that your business, your service, your cases, it's building. It works. It might be high end, it might be low end, it might be, the fact you're on the checker trade and you're able to scale through, platforms like that, or you specialize. My partner's brother's having his house all done up, and he's got some guys that just specialize in doing bathrooms, Italian bathrooms, basically. He's got people in there doing that. He's got other people specializing in, I think he's doing some flashy LED lighting. I think he's got. So he's got people that really specialize. So specialism is a good thing because you can focus resources, you can focus your skills, you can focus the people you hire onto a particular niche. The question you're going to go ask yourself is, how big is that niche? So is it big enough to fund to build the business you want, or depending how big you are, fund the lifestyle that you want? So I think specialism in small business is not a bad thing. It's something to really think about, rather than just trying to be sort of all over the map. What else we got here? Here's another question there. I'm looking on YouTube again now, which is this is one question I always get is, what business should I start? What business works best? That's a very, very difficult question to answer, for obvious, because it depends on you. But I think that, and I don't want to sort of be too generic about this, but I've done videos before about, you need to have passion, you need to have skill, you need to have a market. If you haven't got passion, you'll find that it's probably a job. If you haven't got the skill, it's probably not going to work out. If you haven't got a market, it's a hobby. And people always say, just do something you're passionate about, to some extent, you've got to do something that you care about. You've got to do something that matters to you. you've got to be willing to, put the hours in, and you've got to be something that you really want to get into the detail. So you have to care about it. I don't think it has to be a sort of a lifelong passion, but it's something that really does. You're willing to spend, some cases 18 hours a day, 7 days a week working on. So think about that, but think about what problem, and again, what I'm teaching now, but what problem can you see out there that you think you can solve for a particular customer? It might be a consumer, it might be a business customer. But what you're trying to do in business essentially is find an opportunity to add some value for someone's life or their business. And that could be solving a problem, it could be doing something cheaper, doing something better, doing something faster, doing something in a new and innovative way, leveraging the power of software to automate something. Whatever that value is, that's what you're trying to do, is to add that value to that person and their life. And hopefully, if you get it right, you can add that value in a way which means you can deliver that value add, whatever it might be, at a profit. So you're making a margin. There's no point in working out how to do it and realize you've got, a 5% gross profit margin. You can't build a business around that. So once you sort of work it out and you can make it a margin, then you've got the opportunity to build a business. And then once you really begin to understand about, okay, I really understand these customers, there's a market, an addressable market of this size, of this type of customer that want this service or something that's similar to that service. Then what you can do is throw resource at it carefully and step by step, and you keep sort of tweaking it and learning and iterating, and step by step you build a business. The other thing I often get is, and someone asked me like yesterday, is how long? When can I sell my business? So on average, I would say, and a lot of this is even in venture, which is venture tech, which is, these things can grow pretty quickly. They've got momentum. But you're looking at a 10-year stint. That's how long it takes really to build a business. I don't mean even to build it and sell it, just to get something that, you've been through the 2-3 years of pain and trying to work out what the hell you're doing and how you're doing it. You've then found your feet in many ways. You then spent a couple of years trying to work, okay, how do I scale this? And you made some mistakes. And then you realize, okay, I can scale it. And then you started to scale it. There's been there's been a pandemic or a recession or some personal issue. There's always something that's going to try and slow you down. And you get through that. And when you look back, before you know it, a decade has passed. And at that point in a decade, what you tend to have are businesses where they've got some foundation, they've been through the pain, they've got some solidity, they've got a foundation. It might be a balance sheet. It might be that you put some money into it. At that point, you can start to even raise external finance. Most companies are not tech companies where people comes out of the shower, has a great idea, runs downstairs, picks up the phone, gets the mate in who's an engineer, a software developer, knock a presentation together and raise several million quid. That's not the norm. It takes a long time to build a business, and even a business typically that you might want to raise money into, because investors outside of the startup world, they want to see some solidity, they want to see some traction, they want to see a track record, some numbers. I didn't watch the football. I have to admit, I have absolutely no interest in football. I know nothing about football. My dad wasn't into football, and I never got into it. I played a bit at school. I was more rugby and riding bikes. So I was into bit of BMX racing, not much, but I did one or two. And then sort of riding bikes and messing around, a bit of field target shooting, that kind of thing. But targets, by the way, not animals. And never got into football. So if it's international, I can kind of get into it. But last night I had other things to do. How do you reflect on your time in Dragon's Den? So this is this probably need a much longer chat. So Dragon's Den was an interesting one. So I'll tell you the story how I got into Dragon's Den. You may have heard this before. And I was a secret millionaire on Channel 4 in 2011. So I was in Wolverhampton, which is a town in the UK that's struggled over the years. And then I spent half my time in a young offenders institution. So you might call that a prison. And these are lads in there up to the age of kind of 20, 21, something like that. And when they put the program out, they had to focus solely on my time in this prison, basically. And that's where the kind of researchers and the media sort of noticed me. But that was a one-off. So it was on TV. It was an hour, and you either saw it or you didn't. Digress slightly, but one of the guys I met in prison there, I've stayed in touch with and I mentored. I actually employed him, trained him for a while, made him redundant, believe it or not. That was an awkward day. He then went off, started some businesses. He trained, he continued his sort of training, his learning, his career in sort of IT. And the other day, we're still in touch. He texted me, he's got a new job earning, probably a lot more money than I was earning at his age as well. So he's done really well. And that came out of that. But then because of that, I was sort of asked, do I want to do Dragon's Den? And the first show I was asked, it kind of did happen. It kind of fizzled out and someone else did it. And then a year later, they asked me again. And I was thinking, how the hell do I want to do something which is like, I was kind of busy. I was building a business, didn't have the time. And what was the value? I didn't have a consumer brand. You couldn't sort of see me on TV and then wander down the street and go and buy something in my store. I've always been more kind of B2B. Moblocks is a bit more sort of B2B, but B2C as well. A lot of small businesses and their families, we will offer them services too. And I was thinking, should I do it? And they were chasing me. Now, at the time, I was just about to go on a trip with Sir Richard Branson, and this is all completely true. So I just landed on a turboprop at his private game reserve in the Kruger National Park in South Africa. And about a day later, they're sort of ringing me and emailing me saying, you made a decision. And I was thinking, who can I ask for advice about, business, television, combining the two, the pros and the cons? Is it a good thing to do? The power of the media. And the obvious answer to that was Sir Richard. So, cut a very long story short, I basically said to him, can I have a chat? Something's troubling me. And he said, yeah, no problem. And we sat I remember clearly on this table, and it's like go and Google it, Ulusaba. It's like a rocky outcrop in the bush in the Kruger National Park. It's like a James Bond lair with a big satellite dish on top of it, hidden by leaves or something, or fake leaves. And I kind of sat there, we were having two beers, two Coronas. And I said, look, I'm getting chased by Dragon's Den, what do you think? And he gave me, we had quite a long chat. But one thing he said I always remember is that, back in the day, I would get on a plane, he said, for a decent media slot. So the point is about, social media is very powerful, but don't forget the power of traditional media as well. Radio, TV is still extremely powerful. And he said to me, screw it, just do it. So I did. And I kind of thought, okay, well, that was very helpful. Thank you. Picked up my beer and started to wander off. And he sort of got me back and said, no, ring them back now. So I rang back the producers and said, I'm in. And that's where I ended up on Dragon's Den. So people think that Dragon's Den is very much about, is it rigged? Is it fixed? Is it, is edited? Now, I turned up, I had a quick screen test to make sure I didn't have a meltdown in front of a camera. That was kind of it. And then the next thing I knew, I turned up in Manchester in the UK where it's filmed, got a bit of makeup. And then I'm on the set and there's Peter next to me and Deborah. And then, the lift opens. Out comes the first entrepreneur and off we go. And so it's filmed. They don't stop the cameras. It's filmed. If you think about it, someone comes out, 5-minute pitch, 5 people asking questions. If it's interesting, they could be there for an hour and a half. You see 12 minutes in a long form one, maybe 3 or 4 minutes in a short one, like going into the break or whatever it might be. So what you're seeing is an edit. And in TV, they've got to make it interesting. Now, as you may learn from my live sessions, a lot of business isn't particularly interesting. It's details. It's I've spent the last week literally, because I haven't got my COO in yet, working on pensions and setting up, just admin for the business basically, so I can start bringing people on, and that's a lot of business. So but if you put that on TV, a lot of it, people will switch off. So what they have to do is edit a story. Really, they kind of they don't go off piece. It's kind of reflecting what happened, but there's makes it interesting. So you might see, they might see the narrator saying, Piers is not investing because he didn't believe in the brand or some nonsense like that, or didn't believe in the software, or because the founder didn't understand what a cash flow was. And that's often not the case. It'll be because, I said this example the other day on something, which it might be they're asking me to invest in a subsidiary of a Canadian company in a franchising business, with no intellectual property, whatever. Why the hell would you invest in that? And that's the reason. But that's too technical and boring for TV. So Dragon's Den for me I was a reluctant celebrity in a way. I didn't really go to the opening of a fridge or a film where I wasn't interested. I was going to do my thing. But it's definitely a life-changing thing. And I saw Stephen Bartlett, actually, he's doing it now. So that's great to see another face similar to mine doing it. He's younger, he's a digital native. So it'll be interesting. He'll mix it up as well. But I think I was the first to do probably real tech on Dragon's Den. So I invested in what was called Lost My Name then. It's now called Wonderbly, and they're doing tens of millions of revenue now. Google invested in them. It's making millions of pounds. It'll probably be the first real tech investment. I think it was 4+5% for 100K. It'll be the first, I wasn't asking for, I want 20 grand, half your business. It'll be the first real tech investment, I think, that will grow and exit. And that'll be a good thing for Dragon's Den, because you don't see that very, very often. Whoa, a lot of questions. I'm focusing on YouTube because I haven't got my open LinkedIn as well. Crypto. Whew. I'm actually a big believer in crypto. I don't really play in Dogecoin and all kind of meme stuff, to be honest with you. I can't be bothered. But I think long term, if you think about it, the way I look at it is this: it's like we talk about crypto and the various coins, but I think you got to look at it as an investment, like a business. Like you got to look at what is the use case for that technology. Not even forget the coin. Actually, it's technology. What is the use case for that technology down the line? And then, you might be interested in virtual worlds, whatever it might be, or ways in which football clubs, someone went to football earlier, could interact with their fans using fan tokens. I think the most interesting thing for me is DeFi. So my background, if you don't know that, is finance. I'm a venture capital lawyer by training, believe it or not, and then I was an investment banker at Credit Suisse. So I did mergers and acquisitions, leveraged buyouts. So I've done some serious stuff. I haven't just been on telly, and been dabbling in the startups and high growth businesses. And so DeFi, I think, and this is decentralized finance, I think that's potentially a game changer. I think one of the big issues in finance, I'm also on the board of the government bank, British Business Bank. One of the issues in finance is access to finance, and that can be personal. It can be, people. You talk about like Cardano, for example, and the founder will talk very much about everyone should have access to this currency and all the applications that come with it. But in finance, in business, for example, it could depend very much on where you come from, where you grew up, what postcode you were born in, literally, as to whether you can access finance, and that needs to change. And I think that having applications allow you to access finance in new, innovative ways that are decentralized and not based on what someone in a tie, wearing a tie, thinks of you and your business is a fantastic opportunity. The issue is that when you talk about young businesses, DeFi, lending against a lot of DeFi doesn't really work in the kind of startup space. Before something's got profitability, assets, cash flows, it's pretty hard. Now there are things like Pipe.com, things like Clearbank from Canada over here now, where this is not crypto, by the way, but they're looking at ways of actually democratizing access to capital. And that's what I think is fascinating, is how do you democratize access to capital? So it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, you have the same access to capital that anybody else has got. I think that is a game changer, and that's why I'm particularly interested in DeFi. But if you look at people say, oh, what coins, I'm interested in the ones where I can see a use case. And you might see, crypto does this and it's dropping here, and you look at it and think, oh, it's a nightmare. You've got to take a very long-term view on it. I liken it to Amazon share price. If you look at Amazon's share price, between 1997 and 2002, whatever it is, it looks like a bit of a disaster. If you zoom out and look at it today, I don't know what return you would have had if you'd held on to those, if you bought the shares and held on to them, but it'd be enormous. And I think that's what cryptocurrency is going to go through. Regulatory pushback. It probably does need some regulation at some point, because people can lose their shirts. But it's an exciting place to be, and somewhere where you've got to be very, very careful investing in it. It's very, very highly volatile, but look at it almost investing in a business. What's the use case? What's the opportunity? How big is the market? And do you think that this management team almost can connect that technology, which is what it is, with that target market? Lowry. Hello, Lowry. Um, what would you suggest to those so they don't lose everything they've invested a lot of time, love, and energy in? Is there a way to keep going? Everyone is hanging on to hope it will get better. Now, full disclosure, I kind of know Lowry. Her daughter went to my stepson's school. And I know that Lowry was in business and had a tough time, and it seemed to be even harder because Lowry's worked and her business was in the events industry. So during COVID, that's taken an even serious beating as well. So I think it was very, very hard until quite recently, and even now it's frustrating in terms of when you look at the stats. It was very, very hard to plan really and to understand where things are going, and that's soul destroying, can be crushing. I think now there's some light at the end of the tunnel, so it doesn't mean that things are any easy. It doesn't mean that your business may or may not have made it. What it means though is you can start to plan, and that is to me the light at the end of the tunnel. That is some glimmer of hope for those that have had a real tough time. I know people in hospitality that have struggled as well. Their business has been gone out of business. They've had to bring it back to life again. So think about planning is right. Where are we today? The kind of we're over the hump. Hopefully, we shall see. Hopefully, we are. And now it's time to start planning. Is what, and the world has changed. And I think this is what people miss is that you can plan now, but it's even if you've had a plan, you can't just dust it off. Especially if you're looking at sort of any business now. Actually, the world has changed permanently. So if you're looking at kind of online retail or using digital technology or video conferencing, whatever it might be, the Zoom boom, these are permanent changes. I think the online sales rose by what they expected to happen over 10 years. It happened in a year. Or I think it was 7 months of change or growth in the first 3 months of the first lockdown as well. So we're not going to go back to 2019. So the point I'm making is that when you're planning now, take this fundamental systemic change into consideration and look at how you can leverage that to new opportunities, new ways of accessing customers, delighting customers, new ways of automating your business, new ways of reducing costs. Use and leverage technology to absolutely to be more successful. And sorry, someone's here. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, use technology to be more successful, basically to automate your business. And what I mean, I spent, to talk about me, I spent probably the whole lockdown really planning a new business, and it was interesting seeing that as we sort of move through it, that the plans changed slightly because I think that the technology and the adoption of it has changed as well. And my new business is about connecting small business owners and entrepreneurs with the right technology and tools to make sure that they are absolutely maximizing their growth potential and minimizing their costs. So I think Larry, the only real answer I've got for you is to really think about the world as it's going to be and make plans based around that. I don't. It's MIB. So people ask me for one-to-ones. I just can't do one-to-ones. If I had £1 for everyone who wanted to do one-to-one, have a coffee. Yeah, but I would be a billionaire, which I'm not. I'm not going to sell my course, but I did make a course. I know some of you actually have actually purchased it. So I did make a course, which is 10.5 hours, 76 lessons. And it started off doing a few videos just to answer the same questions. I can put a link or something or a coupon in the chat actually to give you a discount if you're interested in it. But the idea was that I get asked the same questions all the time, and it's quite frustrating actually. Not because I was being asked a question, just isn't this stuff online? And when I looked online, I thought it was it was kind of motivational mindset all over the place. And I know what I know, but I thought, what I'm going to do is put what I know into a few videos. And because I'm mainly attentive and I get obsessed with stuff, I ended up doing 10.5 hours and 76 lessons. So I turned it into a course actually at startup.pearsley.com. So if you're interested in that, go and have a look, and I'll put a coupon in the chat. I'll make one up and put it in the chat after when I finish this. And that essentially, the point I'm getting to again is it's like having 200 coffees with me. It doesn't matter what part of business you've got. And the course kind of works for people starting a business or growing a new business. And a lot of it could probably work for someone just running a business. It just makes you think about things that, for example, if someone said to you, oh, you asked someone a question about, I don't know, intellectual property, or, what legal form your company, your business should take. And they said, oh, I don't know, but I know someone that's been in business called peers. They'll spend half an hour on a call and give you some tips. That's what it is. So it doesn't give you all the answers, but it gives you the foundations and the basis to go and look elsewhere and probably get the answers. So I can't do one-to-ones. People said to me, well, I'll pay you. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't know what to charge you, actually. And I don't have the time, which is why I'm doing this as well. Yeah, so to follow on to your point there, see, you're in the bathrooms business, and you've quadrupled income in 12 months. Fair play, well done. I mean, is that because people are decorating their homes because they're just stuck at home just looking at the same bathroom? But that's the good news. So there's another video playlist. If you go to my Instagram, I think it is, link in bio, and you'll see it there. It's called click on that, and you'll see a video playlist called Scalable 5 Factors to Grow Your Business, I think it's called. And what I go through there are the 5 factors that you need to think about. And I try to distill it into 5 to grow your business. There's sales and marketing, obviously. Well, there's planning, there's operations. That's probably what you might be talking about partly, is that if your front end's growing or moving very quickly and your back end isn't, it's like a pantomime horse. It's going to separate, and you're going to have a bit of a serious problem. There's operations, there's people, which is a huge issue. And I think you mentioned there manpower. There's technology, something I'm quite focused on. So how do you use technology to automate the business to increase your sales or reduce your costs as well? And the last one's finance. So obviously, sometimes when you start to grow and you realize, oh, hang on a minute, and my video on what's it on operational leverage, as I mentioned in my video I did the other day. And the point there is that you have a cost base, and you begin to grow, and that's great to a point. A warehouse, a great example. You mentioned storage. So at some point, you run out of storage. So what do? Do you go and hire a small box next door, or do you go and lease and fit out another enormous warehouse on the basis over the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to use that space? Now, when you first take on that obligation, it can be a warehouse, it can be a machine, it can be a long-term contract actually of any form. Then that's going to have that's going to dilute your profits. But what you have there is the potential for operational leverage. So what you need to think about is in a small business though, is to try and cut your cloth accordingly. So not to try and take on too much, because what you'll find is if you have too much costs that you've put into the business, and for some reason you don't hit the numbers that you want to, then your net margin is going to take a big hit because you're carrying that cost and you're not fully utilizing it. So just ideally in a business, and the world's moving towards now, especially after lockdown, especially offices, you're seeing the move away from leases more towards flexible workspace, flexible offices. And I think you're going to see property generally going that direction. So what you want ideally is variable costs. Now, fixed costs, so take a lease, for example, over the long run, if you use it the way you think you're going to, could work out cheaper than having a variable cost. A variable cost might be a flexible access to some premises. So you're going to pay a bit over market because you're paying a margin to the person that has taken that lease liability. So think about that. Now, manpower is huge. Manpower is, and whether you mean kind of like contract labor or some software engineers, it's the same thing. And you need to hire very, very carefully, and you need to manage people, and you need to make sure that people are on board, they know what they're doing. But the key to it really is to have a real process to hire people, and doesn't matter what they do, but also manage them. Most people in small businesses, most entrepreneurs, I've done it myself, that HR admin, people find it boring, but it's actually super important. If you think about the most important part of your business is your team. And if you're not getting the most out of them, managing their expectations, helping them to develop, helping them to achieve their own goals, then your business will not fire on all cylinders. And eventually you will lose the good people, which is something you don't want to do. And if you are struggling to hire the right people, you've got to think and try and be, try and think and innovate about how you can compensate them. Now, in a tech company, I won't always talk about tech, but you've got options because you're going to sell the business. If it's your business, you're never going to sell it. It's a family business, or it's your baby, and you're not thinking of selling it, for a long period of time. Giving someone shares in it is kind of pointless. So maybe you try and align their incentive with their performance, so bonuses or time off or whatever floats their boat, basically. So think about manpower and think about how you can use whatever you've got to try and align your aspirations with the aspirations of your team. Because otherwise, again, if you get a disconnect, your business won't be as effective as you want it to be. So yeah, by the way, if you're watching this, and how many of you are, don't forget to do the old like, subscribe, tweet about it, if it's useful. And I'm going to learn as well. I will get better at this as well. It's a bit weird, but there you go. What's got you the most excited in the UK fintech scene? Ooh. I think the most interesting thing in fintech is the new companies that are like pipe.com. So Harry Hurst, who I've had a little bit of combat, I had a video call with him, and he's a fan. He's actually English. He's based in the US. And pipe.com is fascinating. This is the business. It doesn't work for every business. You've got to have revenues. But if you've got recurring revenues, or maybe reoccurring revenues, as I mentioned earlier, so some revenues you don't have a contractual, or you can show over a period of time that the revenues keep coming in the door. What you can then do is use that as an asset. And what they're basically doing is creating almost a trading platform, a stock exchange, a NASDAQ, so you can actually sell your revenues. So if you think about it, if you've got a business and you've got, I don't know, recurring revenues of 100K a month, it's 1.2 million pounds a year. That's fantastic. It's great. If you want to accelerate some of that cash flow, and you start giving discounts, so you say, look, if you pay up front, I'll give you this discount. You're into the 25%, a third of your revenue kind of realm. And that's just not efficient at all. It makes no sense. What pipe.com does is say, look, we will buy, and forgive me if I get the numbers wrong, if pipe.com ever watch this, but it's between 30 and 40% of your monthly recurring revenue. They will then multiply it by 12, annualize it. So they'll basically say, we'll give you 12 months of about, call it a third of your revenue up front. They'll charge you, there's a cost for that. I think it's like 5%, call it on average. So you're getting 95% of a third of your annualized revenue up front there and then. What they then do, they're a platform. They don't provide the finance. Institutions then provide the finance, and their return is that 5%. Less the margin that pipe.com takes for their platform. Now that is a game changer. If you think about it, if you're growing, what do? Do you go to venture, or do you take your 1.2 million? You take a third of that, let's call it 400 grand, and you get 400 grand, 95% of that. You can take that, reinvest it back in the business, reinvest it in sales and marketing if you're in this kind of scale mode, whatever you need to reinvest it, grow your recurring revenue again, and then go again. And that's a game changer. And I think that's really exciting. There are other people doing it like Clearbank, which is more kind of debt. People that will plug into your credit card, they'll plug into sort of credit card revenue stream, and they can look at that. So you've got open banking helping this as well, because they actually see what's going on in your account. So what Clearbank will do is sort of plug into your digital marketing, plug into your bank account. If there's an ROI, then they will continue to fund your marketing. So that's fascinating. Now, it doesn't work for businesses where you haven't really got traction revenue yet, but it really is a potentially game changer for growth businesses. And the main reason for that is the fact, not just the cost of it, the capital efficiency, it's the fact that you don't get diluted. It's also not debt. Not sitting on the balance sheet as debt. So for a founder, someone with a recurring revenue business, even if it's I don't know what they go down to. I think they are working on launching in the UK. If you go and look at pipe.com or Harry tweets quite a lot about it. I think they are launching in the UK. That's exciting. That's quite interesting. Any more questions? I may look on YouTube in a minute. I work at Callum. I work as a data analyst for a large corporation, and I see that data analytics plays a huge part in decision making. How do you see data analytics playing a part in smaller business? So there's absolutely no difference whatsoever. The data might be different. The data might be in a different format, but there's no difference. It is all about data, reacting to data. If you are a mobile hairdresser, okay, and you've been charging customers a certain amount of money, you do some analysis of the market. Actually, I can probably charge £5 more per hour or per cut, whatever you do. That's data. If you work out actually, I am not. I'm going to my appointments in a really inefficient way. What I should do is use some sort of mapping software and organize my appointments in a way that's more efficient. So I save time. Maybe I save fuel as well. That's data. Talking to your customers, getting feedback, a survey, what do they think of your service? What kind of would they want? I don't know, making this up as go along now, right? Would they want coloring in the future, or a poem, or what other service interests you? Would you be interested in having your nails done at the same time? That's data. It doesn't matter. It's not just about some huge, hugely complex algorithm churning through mountains of unstructured data, or applying machine learning to it to sort of extract some insight that means you can, add 100 basis points to something and make a fortune. That's not what it's about. It's all data. Business is about data. It's about how do you use the data that's available to you to grow your revenues, understand your customers more, first, and on that basis, provide them with a better service, a better outcome, and they're either going to buy more from you or they're going to pay you more for it, and that's how you become more successful. So, don't get, and people forget this as well. I was saying earlier that small businesses, they don't really engage with customers as much as they should do. It's kind of quite transactional. What large companies do is they do understand data. So, for example, if you're a recurring revenue business, they understand that retention is as important as acquisition. If your churn, the amount of customers you lose a month is 5%, and you reduce that to 2.5% over a 5-year period, your business is twice as big. So that's the impact of churn. So large organizations understand that data is super important. So you'll see them always measuring you and trying to get you to fill out questionnaires or do a survey, post your customer support call. They're trying to work out, sort of NPS and net promoter scores and things like that. Or would you recommend the service to somebody else? They are constantly trying to find ways of extracting data. Large companies are quite often not very good at it because they've got so many silos of data. They're getting better at it because software is allowing them to do this. But historically, they've had lots of silos of data that have really struggled to try and piece them together and connect the dots. In a small business, you've got the ability to use technology to start from ground zero, from scratch. So you've got to think about almost from day one, what data do I need? Sometimes you don't know, so collect everything, because you might find that later on, all that data you have can be used in a way and it can help you extract insights you never thought of. So what data do I really want? Start with, how do I get it? How often do I need it? And then what do I do with it? One thing about data is it's also great if you're collecting it, but you need to actually use it to try and gain insights as well. So to answer your question, it's always about data. Large company or small company, don't be confused. Right, we're going to keep this to an hour because it is Sunday. I don't know if 10 a.m. is a good time to do this on a Sunday. Probably not. We'll give it a go. So any more questions? Uncap similar to pipe. Yeah, there's a few. This is Fred Kelly. Yeah, I mean, all these things, like, pipe's got a $2 billion valuation, raised $300 million. They're kind of killing it. So lots of people now are, we are the pipe of Germany. We are the pipe of whatever it is. I think Harry, who he said he put in one of his tweets a while ago, that just so everyone's aware that if you're saying that we are the pipe of, he's saying that pipe is the pipe of, because they've got big plans to be international. And I think they've been backed by some big players in the US, including I think Shopify and some of the bigger Michael Dell's fund, Chamath, various people who they really can help them sort of scale up. But it's technology. You'll see. We'll see who the winners are at the end of the day. But that's about, again, adding value. But I think that ability of trading revenue, making revenue an asset is huge, because it is an asset, and you work really hard for that revenue. And the ability, you've got to sit there and let it fall, trickle down, percolate down your P&L to a profit. And then maybe based on that, somebody will lend you some money based on some ridiculous covenant I don't know. So democratizing that is great. So I'm going to schedule my live video. I just don't know when. This is Chick89. I don't really know when to do them, whether it's early evening or weekends. So there's someone I'm going to do is schedule them, and I'll get better at the questions. There's a lot more platforms. I haven't set it up yet. Schedule some, but also do some live. And I think also what I might do is do some on particular subjects where I can actually bring in a subject matter expert. So if I can bring someone in that, my probably areas of expertise are probably generalists, but also finance, things like that. But if I want to talk about, I don't know, Salesforce automation, then we probably bring someone in to do that. Or what software would you use to manage your day or manage a team or a project, and bring someone to talk about that. So I'll probably do that over time as well. And so if it's been useful, we're gonna leave it here now for today. So I've got somewhere to be as well. But if it's been useful, please do follow my YouTube channel. YouTube's flipping hard work. I need some followers. Instagram, Twitter, all of it. And I really do appreciate you taking time out to join me. I'll probably do the same, another one midweek, another one at the weekend again. And if you've got any questions, please save them up, fire them over, and I'll try and collect some as well before I actually start these, so I can get straight into it. So I'll probably talk a bit about one of the videos I've done and then get into the questions. Yeah, you're right, Callum. I should have more subs on YouTube. It's just hard work. Problem is, me is that I mean, some of my videos are quite instructive. Some of them are more for like investors in my business. So it's a question of how do you kind of mix it up? I don't really have time to go running around and with a film crew film my life. But what I am thinking of doing is I'm just pimping out probably the wrong word, shouldn't use that. I'm customizing a van conversion, and that's going to allow me to sort of live on the road. So I'm going to be like a man in a van living on the road. I might take all this kit and create like a video podcast, so I can actually drive around and talk to small business owners. What I don't want to do if I do anything like that is just have the usual suspects who are doing the podcast rounds turn up and tell me about how they became a billionaire. That's quite interesting, but it's already all there on YouTube. You can go and watch it. I'm more interested in talking to you about your business. And if I don't know the answer, and to be honest with you, I don't always have the answer because it's just too much to cover, then I'll try and find someone who does. So I hope that's been useful. Hope you have a great Sunday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do now. I'm going to try and get out and get some exercise. It's been a pleasure. And please do follow me. I'm going to reintroduce the music now, I think, on my little set here. Have a great day.